Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Porch. I hope that you are all doing well. Welcome back to my NFL Power Rankings and Team Breakdown series as we start off with team number 27 today, the Cincinnati Bengals. Guys, if you enjoy this series, please drop a like on this video and consider subscribing and turning on post notifications. Just a reminder, every single day up until the start of the NFL season, I will be posting a team day by day, going through their strengths, weaknesses, some storylines for the season, as well as a little bit of fantasy talk, and then getting into their win-loss predictions. So if you guys are interested in any of that, then please consider subscribing. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are the first team in tier number 4, which is an outside chance / everything has to go right to make the playoffs. As always, the tier descriptions will be in the description box of this video and all future videos below. But basically, the gist of this tier is that these are teams that are a lot of pieces away or really have a lot of major question marks or problems with whether it be coaching or talent, and they really need everybody else in the division to struggle in order for its chance to make the playoffs, and that's no exception here with the Bengals. So for their coaching analysis, Duke Tobin is that general manager. He's been there for a long time, along with Darren Simmons at special teams coordinator. I think they have both been here for over 19 years. Zach Taylor at head coach, Brian Callahan at offensive coordinator, and Lou Anaramo at defensive coordinator have all been here in year 3 of this Zach Taylor regime. So let's go ahead and get into some of their strengths. Number 1, the wide receiver room should be great this year. You've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside, both of which project to be very good this year. Specifically, Jamar Chase I'm very excited for, as well as Tyler Boyd, who is a very solid, I would say even at this point, underrated slot receiver. So look out for great things there from the wide receiver room. And then they do have one of the better running back rooms, I would say, in the NFL. You've got Joe Mixon at the top, who I would say is a top 10 to 12 running back in the NFL, along with Samaj Perine as his backup, and a UDFA they picked up this year, Puka Williams. Look out for that name. We'll get into him a little bit later in this. So then also I think their secondary should be at least decent this year. They have the best true safety in football in Jesse Bates, along with Ricardo Allen and Von Bell, who kind of swap out at that strong safety spot. Along with that, you have Chidobe Awuzie, Trey Waynes, and Mike Hilton at corner. So this group should be decent. I don't expect anything crazy out of them, specifically the corners. But Jesse Bates does help them out a lot, especially being a guy who really can cover all parts of the field. As for their weaknesses, I still have my questions about this offensive line. Riley Reif at right tackle just doesn't do it for me. I will get into it a little later, but I thought the Jamar Chase pick was not the right pick. I have kind of cooled down from that pick since the draft has gone more removed from it, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So also Zach Taylor, he just doesn't do anything for me as a head coach. It really did feel like he only got hired because he had connections to, I believe it was Sean McVay. So it's another example of this sort of, I think, nepotism that happens a little bit in the NFL, where it's a lot about who you know rather than what you know. And honestly, my hope with Zach Taylor, I don't want anybody to get fired, but I would like to see them move on from him. He hasn't done anything to really excite me in these past 2 years, and he does have the excuse of he came into a terrible roster year 1. Joe Burrow was hurt year 2. But otherwise, I just don't really see it with him. So my hope is that next year Carolina has a really good year, and they can lure Joe Brady as offensive coordinator there, who recently worked with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at LSU, into this Bengals team. That's like my biggest wish list for this upcoming offseason, which is way down the road, but we'll talk about that later. And then they also don't really have a true game changer on their defense besides Jesse Bates, who is just a safety. I mean, there is a little bit of potential there with Joseph Asai, who they just drafted this year. They did bring in Trey Hendrickson, albeit I think they overpaid for him. I think they should have just kept Carl Lawson for how much they both cost. Cam Sample, Tyler Shelvin also coming here as rookies, along with Sam Hubbard, among others. So this isn't a defensive group that really excites me outside of Jesse Bates. So it's hard to get excited about that. And then as for some storylines heading into the season, will Zach Taylor save his job? I really do think he's on the hot seat this season. He's got a team with a lot of great weapons on offense, and they at least need to look good there. I at least need to see something in the way of progression on the offensive side. Another question, is this offensive line going to be enough with the addition of Jackson Carman at guard? So I've heard the argument that Michael Jordan at guard was the whole reason why Joe Burrow got hurt on that play last year, got his knee snapped in half. I would still argue, however, that was their biggest weakness coming into this year. And while I have warmed up to the Ja'Marr Chase pick, now I guess more than I was previously, I still think this is a B-plus pick. I do think their needs at tackle were enough to be able to trump that of grabbing Ja'Marr Chase. I understand it. I think they're both going to be fantastic this year. I do think that there's a chance Ja'Marr Chase wins Rookie of the Year, although it is very hard as a wide receiver to do that. We'll see what happens. I still think they should have gone Penei Sewell. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I just think after watching Joe Burrow's knee snap in half, I still have a little PTSD about that. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully Jackson Carman can keep him safe. And then can Joe Mixon stay healthy? He's had it's kind of the injury bug the past couple of years, and hopefully Samaj Perine and Puka Williams can help to take the load off of him a little bit more and just keep him healthy throughout the entire year. But we'll have to see with Joe Mixon. He is a fantastic player, so we'll see what happens there. And then 3 key players for this team. First 2 are Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. Pretty self-explanatory there. They have this insane connection going back to LSU. They should be great, and they're going to be the 2 marquee guys in this offense. Then the third player I have on here is Jackson Carman. You could also make the argument for a guy like Jonah Williams at left tackle being the more important position, as Carman's probably going to play right guard from the looks of it. But I would lean towards that right guard spot because that is the spot that Joe Burrow got his knee snapped. And I also do think that Jonah Williams, while coming back from injury, I think he's going to be just fine this year at that tackle spot. Also, there's another reason for why I'm skeptical about this offensive line and not drafting tackle is Jonah Williams is coming off of a torn ACL, which I don't know. So anyway, best fantasy players for this team. Ja'Marr Chase, number 1. I've gone on about it a ton in this video, and I apologize for that, but it's very easy to see why. And then Joe Mixon as well. He's going to get a majority of the touches, even with 2 solid backups. I also do have T. Higgins on this list, who is going to slide into a definite number 2 role, although I do think that's also where he is best suited at for this offense. And then I also do have Joe Burrow on this list. He's a guy who in Dynasty Leagues I think is going to go a little bit higher this year if you're doing a draft for the first time. In terms of redraft, I don't know exactly where he lands at, but I think he is a guy that you could take as a late 6th round, 7th round flyer, depending on what your league looks like, and really come away with something special, pardon me. And then my Dynasty sleeper player, this is where we talk about Puka Williams. He is an undrafted free agent out of Kansas. He's got all the talent in the world. I'll put it like that. He has the tools to be a good running back in the NFL. He had some off-field issues. And if you will remember, Joe Mixon also had very similar off-the-field issues. And it seems like he's cleaned up his act, at least to this point. So we'll have to see with Puka Williams. He's definitely a guy. I have him on my taxi squad right now for my Dynasty League, just as a draft and stash guy. And I didn't even draft him. I picked him up off of waivers. So he should be available if you have like a really deep league, like if you're 12, 14 deep. He's definitely a guy to look at as a late flyer. And someone to potentially stash that you could even use as trade bait in the future. But we'll see how much playing time he gets. He is a true definition of a sleeper where he is really low. I thought about going with a guy like Tyler Boyd, but I feel like all those picks are too obvious for the Cincinnati team. I feel like people kind of know those guys, and Puka Williams is a true sleeper who people will not know. So give him a chance if you have the roster slot. I have him on my squad. We'll see what happens there. So then, schedule overview. They do have the 6th hardest schedule. They do not get a lot of breaks here. They have to play a lot of tough teams, as well as being in this AFC North division. It's going to be a tough one for them. They're going to have a really rough stretch of games. Some key games for them. Week 4, at home against Jacksonville. That's very winnable. A young team going up against another young team. Also, Week 11, at Vegas. I think that's also a very winnable game for them. As well as the week after that, at home against Pittsburgh. These two teams have really not liked each other the past couple of years. And I think that'll be even more apparent then. As well as Week 18 at Cleveland. I think this is a very winnable game for them. Cleveland is going to be coming off of a Monday game. They're going to have very short rest, as well as just being at the end of the season. Maybe they're looking more towards the playoffs, because I do think Cleveland is going to be a really good team this year. Maybe they'll rest some players, although it is a divisional game, so we'll see what the standings look like at that point. All I'm saying is if Cleveland comes out and loses Week 18 to the Bengals, don't be surprised. That's all I'm going to say about that. So my prediction, this is the first time where it's really apparent to me that my power rankings are different from what I think a team is going to go in terms of their actual record. I have them going 4-13 this year, which is worse actually than both the Jets and the Jaguars, who I have going 5-12. I just think those teams have a little easier schedules. The floor for this team is 1 win. They could really come out of this stretch rough. I do think Jacksonville, I don't want to say is a lock, but I think it's a very good chance they win that game. And then my ceiling for them is 8 wins. They've got a couple of games on the schedule that could go their way, that they could show out at, and they do have some games at home against opponents I think they could beat if everything goes right for them. The Vegas over-under is 6.5 wins. I would say take the under with some caution. If I was a betting man, I've said this before, I personally don't think I would take it. But if you want to take it, it's there. It's pretty close, though, for me. I'm kind of on the fence of if I would really, truly take it or not. So overall, this team definitely has some talent to keep an eye out for on the offensive side of the ball. You've got Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. I mean, the wide receiver group alone is top 15 in the NFL, and they're all under the age of like 25 or 26. So they've got a really exciting young core there on offense. I still think they really need a tackle, though. I dislike the Jackson Carman. I think it's kind of a Band-Aid pick. I thought there were better picks available at the time. I don't know how I feel about that. I also don't know how I feel about Zach Taylor as well. I think personally he's going to let them down. We'll see what happens, though. So let me know your thoughts on the Bengals below. What do you think of my rankings of them? Do I have them too high? Do I have them too low? Shoot off in the comment section below. Once again, if you like this video, make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Once again, every single day, a new video will be coming out, power rankings, and giving my team breakdowns. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.